This final video will explain how the createRow function takes a list of row elements and generates the code to put them into either a standard or header table row. The first line of the function retrieves the optional keyword argument for the number of leading spaces, and this works exactly the same way as it did earlier in the createTable function. The next line begins generating the output string by concatenating the spaces in front of a new table row tag. After that, an if-else statement checks to see if this is a header row or a standard row. If it's supposed to be a header row, then we cycle through every item in that list of row data that was passed to the function and concatenate a new entry on the output for an item enclosed in header tags. If it's not a header row, then we're going to do something a little bit fancier. I will admit that this else clause here is written very specifically to match the formatting used in James Williamson's video and the exercise files. In James's example, he formats the leftmost column so that the first word of it is enclosed in a strong tag. To do this, I take the first element of the row data, which will be the contents of the leftmost column, and I use the split function to separate the string at spaces. By including the additional second parameter in the split function of 1, I can tell it to only divide the string once, which is at the instance of a space. This is a handy trick to keep in mind when you need to split off just the beginning word or words from a string. After I've isolated the first word from the string of data to put in that cell, I can generate the output line for it. I do that by concatenating the leading spaces with an open table data cell tag. I put the strong tag in there, put in my first word, close the strong tag, and then put in the remainder of that first column, followed by a closing cell tag and a new line operator. The data for the remainder of the cells can be formatted just as basic strings, so I simply use a for loop to cycle through the rest of the row data and insert those items between standard cell tags. The code for these elements is formatted almost exactly the same as the earlier header row, except that it uses the standard TD tag instead of the TH tag. At the end of the function, I decrement the leading spaces, and I return the completed output for the entire HTML row. As I mentioned a moment ago, this script was written specifically to match the solution to the exercise files from the Dreamweaver CC Essentials training. If you want to make the createRow function more generic, just remove those formatting bits that put the first word into strong tags so that the standard cell data are created in a similar fashion as the header data. That concludes the description of my solution to the 6th Code Clinic Challenge. I thank you for taking the time to watch these videos, and I hope you learned something new along the way.